You know, every hotel has its stories, right? But some hide secrets that just don't make any sense. We're about to dive into a case that is genuinely chilling. A man checks into a modern, security camera-filled hotel, and then he just stops existing. So let's set the scene. Picture this. It's February 9th, 2013. A cold, ordinary night in Chicago. And this is the last day anyone would ever see a man named Daniel Moore. He walks into the Riverside Tower Hotel, a place that's packed with modern security. He checks in, gets his key card, heads for the elevator. Nothing seems out of place. For all anyone knows, it's just another guest on another night. And right here, this is the core of the whole mystery. With 18 different cameras watching the hallways, the exits, the elevators, how does a person just vanish into thin air? That's the question that has absolutely stumped investigators for over a decade. Okay, so let's break this whole thing down piece by piece. First up, we're just going to look at the cold, hard facts of his disappearance. Everything pieced together from what witnesses said and what the hotel's own security camera saw. So, the man at the center of all this is Daniel Mora. He's 32 years old, and he's a software engineer. And believe me, that detail becomes really important later. He tells the front desk he's just there to meet someone, but he never says who. And that one vague phrase is the last official reason we have for him being there. The security footage gives us this incredibly tight, second-by-second timeline. At exactly 9:02 p.m., Daniel gets into the elevator, heads to the second floor. Cameras follow him as he walks down the hall, he makes a turn at a corner, and he is never, ever seen on camera again. Then, just 15 minutes later, at 9:17 p.m., the first truly strange thing happens. And this brings us to the first clue that pushes this case from a simple missing person report into something, well, something much, much weirder. Let's talk about the ghost elevator. Right, so at 9:17 p.m., the exact same elevator Daniel used comes right back up to the second floor. The doors slide open to a totally empty hallway. The question is just so obvious but so unsettling. If there was no one there to push the button, what or who called it? Well, when investigators pulled the elevator's own diagnostic logs, the mystery just got deeper. The system registered no call button being pressed. It detected zero motion in front of the doors. It didn't register any weight inside the car. For all intents and purposes, the elevator was summoned by absolutely nothing. Now, to rule out the obvious, they brought in engineers, had them inspect the elevator from top to bottom. And their conclusion? It was completely definitive. They found zero mechanical faults. Nothing. The elevator was working perfectly. It should not have been able to do what it did. So, with no trace of Daniel in the hallways and this possessed elevator, the investigation locked its focus on his destination, room 239. And what they found inside, it just makes things even stranger. Inside the room, police find a few really disturbing things. His laptop has chat logs on it, but they're protected by military-grade encryption. Way, way beyond what a typical software engineer would need. They also find a torn map of the city, and most chilling of all, these deep scratches on the inside of the wardrobe door. And the fingerprint analysis? Confirmed. They were made by Daniel Mora himself. And then there was this, a note left in the room, written in what was described as this shaky, terrified handwriting. It had just 4 words. Don't let them in. Who were they? And what was he so afraid of? And here's where the tech mystery comes back in a big way. The hotel's digital key logs show that sometime after Daniel disappeared from the cameras, his room door was opened twice. But here's the impossible part. No keycard was used, and there was absolutely no sign of forced entry. The door just opened. So with this collection of just bizarre, contradictory facts, investigators had to start coming up with some theories. Let's walk through what they considered and where the evidence pointed them. All right, let's run through the main theories here. The idea that he just slipped through a camera blind spot? That got debunked fast. They did a full sweep, and there just weren't any. The mechanical glitch theory for the elevator, also rolled out completely by the engineers. But that leaves 3 pretty disturbing scenarios that are still plausible. First, that military-grade encryption suggests he was there for some kind of illegal meeting that went south. Second, the note, the scratches, the ghost door entries. That points to someone already being inside that room, waiting for him. And finally, the darkest possibility, that Daniel never left that hotel alive. And this is backed up by one last ping from his cell phone at 11:03 p.m. That's 2 hours after he vanished, placing him squarely inside the building.
But even with these plausible theories, no suspect was ever named. A body was never, ever found. And in the years that followed, the strange story of Room 239 only got stranger.
Get this, years later, in 2018, a former hotel employee came forward with this absolutely chilling detail. They said that long after the investigation went cold, guests on other floors would complain that the elevator would make these weird, unscheduled stops on the second floor. The doors would just open to the empty hall, wait, and then close again, like it was waiting for a passenger who never showed up.
The hotel, apparently unable to explain or stop any of this, eventually took some pretty drastic steps. They quietly shut down the entire second floor to all guests. They physically removed that wardrobe with the scratches from room 239, and they had the entire elevator system completely ripped out and rewired. Think about that. The hotel itself acted like something was so fundamentally wrong with that space, they had to shut it down. After all the investigations, all the theories, and all the years that have gone by, we're left with this one undeniable fact. Daniel Mora, the 32-year-old software engineer who went to meet someone, has never been found. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If a man can vanish so completely from a place that's supposed to be under constant surveillance and leave behind a trail of events this bizarre, what else does the Riverside Tower hide?